Gran Colombia doesn't exist, at least not anymore. It was a formidable country in South America that contained what are now Colombia, Venezuela, Panama, Ecuador, as well as parts of Peru and Brazil. It lasted for the sum total of 12 years before rapidly falling apart. But why did this major nation break up? Why did Gran Colombia fail? To begin, we have to go back to Napoleon. It's always Napoleon. Spain had allied with him, which brought it into conflict with Britain and Portugal, whose navies hampered the ability of the Spanish monarchy to communicate with its American holdings. The Spanish king was soon overthrown by Napoleon, and thereafter those who lived in Spanish America took governing into their own hands, since Spain's new king was seen as illegitimate. Across the Spanish Empire, civil wars broke out between those who wished to sail over to Spain under its new king and those who wished for independence. One place trying to break away was Venezuela, which some chap called Simón Bolívar had been fighting to liberate for half a decade at this point. In order to secure his country's independence, Bolívar needed to make sure that Spanish and Royalist forces couldn't take refuge in the bordering regions of what was called the Viceroyalty of New Granada. And so, in 1819, Bolívar chased down Spanish forces there. He defeated them, and politicians back in Venezuela declared the creation of the Republic of Colombia, which looked like this. Incidentally, this country is referred to as Gran Colombia to separate it from what's now Colombia. So, what happened? Well, the first issue was that Bolívar wasn't done, and he was busy driving the Spanish out of the rest of South America. Doing so was very expensive, and funding this was made even harder by the corruption across Gran Colombia. Furthermore, as his campaign was ongoing, he kept getting made president of more and more countries, which he soon gave up to his close friends, because these friends were on the same page as him, and would totally give up their newfound power to enlarge Gran Colombia in the future when he asked. Another issue was that simply declaring an area to be a united state doesn't make it so. Under the Spanish, each part of the viceroyalty was administered separately and had little interaction with the others. And now that they had to get along, they didn't. And similar to those in the early United States, the people in Gran Colombia identified with their state much more than their country. So why did one succeed where the other failed? Well, it's because Bolívar wanted Gran Colombia to be heavily centralized as opposed to being a federation of semi-autonomous states. Bolívar feared that without a strong central government, Gran Colombia would fall to civil war quickly. And so he built a government in which power lay mostly within the capital, and the other major cities would only have limited authority, which of course caused resentment. In response, Bolívar called for a constitutional convention. The plan was that everyone would agree to his vision for the country, but instead everybody wanted Gran Colombia to be a federation. And if these local powers couldn't be upheld, separation. Bolívar refused to accept any of this, and he wanted to be made president for life with broad powers to stop the country from fracturing. Literally nobody wanted this, and so in 1830, when he realized he had failed, Bolívar quit. He died shortly afterwards, but not until after Ecuador and Venezuela had declared their independence. And thus, Gran Colombia had fractured into three new nations. And Bolívar's dream of the united Spanish-speaking South America was dead.